So I'm Tony Redmond, and I have the honor of moderating this session, which means trying to keep it on track. Behind me is a collection of talent that can only be described. Oh, well, let's not even try and
We're
describe
recording
it.
this, Tony.
Yeah, that's why I realized suddenly, because I was going to use a word that probably doesn't come across well to people listening at home who are not enjoying the unique experience and atmosphere of being here. But anyway.
Splendid. We have more to give away.
Oh, you've got more to give away. Brian Reed, another MVP. So anyway, do you guys want to introduce yourself and tell, in less than 10 seconds, why you're so why you're so brilliant at technology? Jeff.
My name's Jeff Guillet. I'm a Microsoft Certified Master for Exchange, MVP.
All right.
And why I'm so good at Exchange?
Why you're so pretty.
Why so pretty. Okay. Got it.
Why are you qualified to be here?
I have no idea.
Okay, so basically he's the only guy we could get. Michael.
So I am Horst. No, I'm Michael. I'm also an Exchange Master and MVP.
And he's got the best haircut of all of the Exchange MVPs, right?
I do.
And now we have...
Hi, I'm Nick. I'm also an Exchange Master, and I'm also an Exchange MVP. Since we're resurrecting dead certifications.
Yeah, dead certification. Yeah. Some people just cling on to those programs, don't they? Anyway. Anyway, okay. So who's going to ask the first question of this esteemed panel? I have questions lined up, but we can certainly take a question to start. Come on.
Before we get started, let me see a show of hands. How many people are migrating right now, in the process of migrating? It's about 2/3.
2/3? Okay.
How many people have migrated and you're done? That's about 6. And how many people are considering migrating? Okay, that's about 1/3. And last question, who of you will never migrate?
Why are you here?
Yeah, there's some of those guys still running Exchange 5.5,
Right, yeah.
That
was about
it. No. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Whether or not it's a very good opinion is a different matter, but you're entitled to it. Come on. Okay, who's going to start the ball rolling before I ask them a question? Okay, there we go. No, you're not allowed to ask questions. You're not allowed to ask questions. No, he's from Microsoft, for God's sake. Would you like to express an opinion about the fine quality of your products or something like that?
No, I think these guys...
Yeah.
I think these guys are all beautiful. I just wanted to ask a quick question.
Okay, that is worth tweeting. Tim Heaney from Microsoft thinks that this crew are beautiful. Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to a real question. There was a real question at the back of the...
I have a real question. My real question is, when do you use third-party migration software, and why?
Okay.
Okay, I'll start that.
That's a good
when
one.
Do we use
so did everybody hear the question? When's a good idea to use third-party migration software? Why would you go and spend good money buying in migration software when Microsoft gives you migration capabilities right in the product? Jeff, and you can be kind.
There are scenarios where there is no in-place migration tool that you can use. An example would be tenant-to-tenant migrations, or migrations from one system to another where you don't want to set up maybe Exchange to consolidating. This is more on-prem, but consolidating to organizations where you don't want to set up a federated trust. I do that quite often.
Michael?
Basically what he said.
Gosh, you're really firing on all cylinders this morning, aren't you?
No, but... Third-party tools, when none of the built-in tools work, for instance, Lotus Notes to Exchange Online, if you need advanced scenarios. You could do an IMAP migration, but we all know how limited that is. So if you need coexistence, more reliable way of migrating from Lotus Notes to Office 365, that's a good example. Mm-hmm. There's that other cloud solution called Google Apps or Google whatever. If you want to migrate, third-party tools do it really good. Those are pretty good use cases.
Okay, Nick, anything to add?
Yeah, so I come from a place where bandwidth is challenged, to be kind. And so very often we use PST as a bridging mechanism sometimes. So, for example, we're doing a Lotus Notes to Office 365 migration at the moment. And so the easiest way, instead of trying to build the traditional migration console and trying to push data up into the cloud from a centralized point, we would get all the NSFs from literally all around the country to a central location, start the custom on dial tone mailboxes, and then do an NSF to PST conversion, then pump those PSTs up. And so third parties are where I don't have the capability for hybrid. Sometimes that's not technical, sometimes that can be political, and we've had some talks about that. Sometimes it's because I'm coming from other, and you stopped supporting group-wise migration tools, so got to use someone else's. So for me, most of the time it's when we use PST as an intermediary format, and it's easy then to push that up to the cloud, but we still need a scheduling mechanism, an orchestration mechanism to get that there, as opposed to using Outlook.
Okay, nobody mentioned public folders.
What's that? Who uses them?
No, I've used third-party tools.
Oh, that's strong talk. That's fighting talk.
So here's a question: who still uses public folders?
So there's your answer. So I've used third-party tools to migrate from Exchange 2013 to Office 365, since that's not
Currently supported.
currently, you're not
Documented.
able to do that currently.
Yeah.
It's not that it's not documented, you just can't do it, but without third-party tools.
Okay. Well, the fact is you can do it because third-party tools do it, but it's not
Without-
not out of the
without
box. Okay.
third-party tools.
So is that a good answer for you, Tim? Are you happy with that? Good. The second one, we had gentleman in the middle. There you go.
My name is Peter Bankman.
Okay. Hi, Peter.
Think of an existing hybrid configuration.
Can you put your hand up so we know where we're looking? Oh,
There.
thank you.
There.
Oh, there. Thank you.
There. It's all right.
We have 30K mailboxes on premise and 30K mailboxes in Exchange Online.
Okay.
ADFS, DSync, all on start.
Okay.
And we have been asked if it is possible to move the on-premise part to another Exchange organization by keeping the hybrid mode. And bonus question, what about public folders in this scenario?
Okay, so let's make sure that, let me say this back. You've got 60K mailboxes, 30 on both sides, 30 on-prem, 30 hybrid.
Right.
And do you want to take the 30 that are on-prem and break them away to a new organization?
That's right.
A new on-prem organization?
Right.
Okay, and what do we think about this?
Do you want to just move them to a new forest and then build a new hybrid there, or is it just break them away and stay away from whatever you had in Office 365?
I think that's the question. Is it possible without breaking the hybrid and establishing a new hybrid? Or
So let me say again, you've got these 30K on-prem users,
yeah,
and you basically want to carve them away,
yeah,
bring them over,
out of our
create a
organization.
new organization, so it's a new AD forest, and you want to do it without breaking the existing hybrid.
Without breaking.
Without, yeah, clearly, of course. I mean, who wants to break hybrid?
So you can do multi-forest hybrid.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with that is that you'll have coexistence. So you're going to have 2 forests worth of coexistence, plus you'll have hybrid coexistence for your forest A and then forest B.
Yeah.
Now, in the pre-AAD sync days, we had some guidance around resource forest models, which included directory sync, which is effectively where you may need to think of going, because you've got public folders involved, that makes things a little bit more difficult. So I think the answer for you is that technically, yes, it could be done. There'll be a lot of process and it'll be very painful, but it could be done.
Okay.
But would you want to do it? Is, I think, yeah.
I wouldn't.
So I think you're answering your own question there.
But
So,
I have to.
okay. Yeah. So yes, it can be done, although it would be incredibly complex.
Nick's consulting rates are very, very, very reasonable. Okay. It sounds like you've got a very, very edge situation. So, it's going to be complex and it's going to take a lot of work. Okay, next one. Who we got?
Coming in
There we
Raj.
have gentleman Raj. who came up earlier to say hi. By the way, who's the guy who's been taking pictures of me from the rear?
That
Specifically
would be
from
me,
above
Tony.
my hairline to show off that I'm balding there. It's not appreciated. And tweeting about it, no less. Sir.
Hi, my name is Raj. We are currently in a hybrid environment. Most of our users are on-prem, and we have some users in Office 365. We have a tenant, and we've been experiencing issues where the online users are having issues with accessing resources on-prem. It could be FreeBusy, it could be different scenarios. We have ADFS, directory sync, all that in place.
Okay.
So, I mean, what's the best way to troubleshoot any issues that comes across like this? And also, I have a follow-up question. Our company.
Well, let's take the first one that you've got.
Okay.
Okay. So let me say back to you. You've got a hybrid situation set up. You've got ADFS and everything in there, and you're having some problems from time to time with things, perhaps delegates not working, FreeBusy lookups not working, that kind of thing. Is that it?
Correct.
Okay. And so the question that you're asking the panel is, how do you troubleshoot that kind of thing? Did I get it?
Right.
Okay. How do you troubleshoot hybrid environments when you've got things like ADFS and stuff like that all wrapped up in the mix?
So I'm going to give you the consultant answer. It depends. No, seriously, there is a lot of variables that come into play, and it also depends on what kind of error you're seeing. You said FreeBusy. Well, it depends how FreeBusy is done. If you're in a Exchange 2013 environment, I'm not sure. Then there are the organization relationships. There might be OAuth in play. So it first depends on what broke and what the experience is like. And then once you determine that, there's a variety of ways that you can go about. For instance, for the organization relationships and even for OAuth, Microsoft has the test commandlets, which are a very good way to start and test those components. So test organization relationship allows you to do an end-to-end transaction of the organization relationship and verify whether or not that's working. For instance, last year, Microsoft broke the organizational relationships a few times. They made some changes in the Federation Gateway, and a very good way to find that out is run the command and it'll return a failure, and it'll also tell you why it failed, which then gives you the opportunity to go in and make some changes. If, of course, there's something that you can do about it. But, I mean, there's many reasons why something can fail. Same for ADFS. I mean, is it a certificate issue? Is it just a connectivity issue? Is it just because, ADFS service is down? Really hard to answer that one in a generic way, though.
And I would add, Tim Heaney wrote, I think you wrote it, the FreeBusy troubleshooter on TechNet. And that's a great resource.
Are you using it?
Sorry?
Are you using the FreeBusy troubleshooter from TechNet?
No, I haven't.
So that
It walks-
charming gentleman over there you should go and talk to afterwards.
It walks you through every step to very methodically going through testing the org relationship, checking the logs, looking for specific strings. And that is a really good resource for troubleshooting. What FreeBusy issues seem to be very common, at least in
Which is why Tim wrote the troubleshooter.
exactly cutting down on support calls. So
Yeah, exactly.
that's a real good resource.
And for that matter, there are other troubleshooters as well. You said you were in a hybrid deployment. There's the migration troubleshooter. There's the HEW troubleshooter tools that Tim's team that created just for that purpose. So they are really good starting points to find out what's happening and point you in the right direction.
Okay.
Thank you. My follow-up question was, my company recently got acquired by a parent company, a different one, and it's possible that the two tenants could merge or...
Well, merging two Office 365 tenants.
Right. Or,
Are they both hybrids?
yes.
Third-party tools.
Okay.
There's no way you can't get there from here with current tools. So I know that is on the roadmap. It is very complicated. You would think it wouldn't be since they're both in Microsoft tenants, but even two tenants that are not in hybrid. That's not possible to do right now.
Well, one complication, though you're saying it's easy, is that the two tenants could be in different regions.
Right. I said you would think it would be easy.
I was just adding some color, Jeff, proving that I am adding some value here.
Yeah, but it's quite complicated for reasons like Tony stated at times. But
So I agree with Jeff that a third-party tool might help you in this situation where you can move between tenants. But another approach, if for some reason you are not allowed or able or willing to spend money on third-party tools, is going through sort of double hop or triple hop in this case, where you offboard one of the tenants. Since you're in hybrid, you can move mailboxes back on premises. Then you do a cross-organization on premises, move into the other forest, and then move all those mailboxes back, which is a lot of effort. But that would be
and then rinse and repeat for the other tenant.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing is, that my color commentary on this one is, that sounds in a financial sense to be, a way to save money, but in fact you're not going to save money at all. Because the amount of effort that you're going to go through and the amount of support calls you're going to generate as things break for users with their Outlook experience, it's just not worth it. So I'd be with Jeff's answer in this one. Michael's answer is, of course, technically correct. Okay, let's take another question. And by the way, if anybody, we have this book here, which was written by a couple of the MVPs, to help you who are preparing for exam 7342. So if anybody is preparing for that exam and would like to ask a good question, not a silly question, a good question, we'll give that away as a prize. Sir, you're next. Have we got a mic? Or I'll get a mic. Oh, all right. Well, you've got one already, so you get to go first.
Sweet. So we're in the middle of a 2010 to 2013 to Office 365 migration. We have unified messaging deployed, and I'm wondering, there's been a bit of a disagreement in the office as to whether or not unified messaging on-prem is supported with Office 365.
Yes.
Okay.
It is. Would you like a more verbose answer?
Two sentences, Jeff. Let's see. Can you do it in
So there's, so you need to, first of all, are you Link?
We are link enabled.
Okay. EV, Enterprise Voice?
No.
Okay. So what are you using for your PBX?
Avaya. We have a session border controller that links the two of them.
So yes, you just, I know it from the Link point of view.
So I guess the distinction is that the unified messaging servers stay there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You use your SPC to forward the mail into the cloud, and you just, as the users are moved over, if they were enabled before, they're enabled again.
Yeah, you've just got to recreate the dial planes so that they're duplicate, because otherwise you've got a dial plane mismatch when you move the mailbox.
Right. Yeah, make sure that's the trick. Make sure that the dial plan is named exactly the same in the cloud.
Okay.
Okay, happy with that one?
Yes.
There's always.
And then you have to migrate your auto attendants too.
You notice that there's always a couple of things behind a simple yes answer.
Yeah.
Indeed.
You notice that? Right. We got another question over here.
Okay. First, shameless plug for these guys up here. If you don't have the Office 365 for Exchange Professionals ebook, buy it.
Oh, thank you.
Second, we're a large...
We'll see you outside, fix you up, no problem.
Yeah. Second thing, so we're an on-prem organization, 140,000 plus, and we've always had the comparisons of looking at the cost of trying to possibly move to O365. We're kind of going through those debates right now. But the second debate would be, are there any good, articles out there maybe that could show from like a legal standpoint, try to convince the legal department, that this would be a good way to go to, even from like a hybrid or even going to full cloud approach? Because that would be one of the hurdles that if we're going to go that route, that's one of the big things we'd have to deal with.
So, yeah, there's pretty good documentation. There's a Trust Center, I believe it's called. It's a website which contains pages and pages and pages of documentation for lawyers to go through if they want to figure out whether or not the cloud is safe. So that's definitely, there is a lot of information on there. Just to follow up with that, I've seen some of the most challenging legal environments go from a total no to, hey, we're going to move to Office 365. So there is a lot of customer success cases or use cases that might help convince the legal team, but I believe the Trust Center is the first place to start looking at.
Oh, just go and search for Office
Yeah.
365 Trust Center, because they have a habit of changing URLs and stuff like that. You'll get into URL they have. But I agree there, that absolutely. The thing that struck me about this kind of thing for Office 365 in particular is the phenomenal effort that Microsoft has put in achieving external auditable certifications. You know, when Office 365 was first released in June 2011, there were definitely all sorts of worries about data security, compliance, retention, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it even came down to things like, well, how do you get at data in the data centers? Who has got that type of right? I think if you were listening to Vivek Sharma the other day when he was talking about behind the curtain of Exchange Online, and he explained about things like the lockbox that they have there, where they can restrict for a time-limited period access for people to work with customer data if they need to in a support environment. They're down to that type of granular level of thinking to make sure that they can guarantee that data is always preserved and is only available to the tenant and to Microsoft under very, very strictly controlled circumstances. So I think, go to the Trust Center, you'll find a lot of stuff there.
Just to add on to that, Tony.
Yes, sir.
So I've worked with legally sensitive customers who don't want to go to a website. And what will help is that you'll find that in country there'll be a Microsoft legal counsel. And you speak to your Microsoft account manager and get your legal counsel hooked up with the Microsoft legal counsel. And then that tends to short circuit things a lot better than the lawyers arguing what they think the website says.
Yeah. Lawyers never argue. A question at the back of the room? Yeah, you? Yes.
Okay, excellent. My question is about journaling. A lot of our clients, we have them do third-party journaling because there's not a good journaling solution within Office 365. Is there plans to roll out a full-on journaling feature within Office 365 so they can just keep their data there forever and have it legally discoverable, all that good stuff?
Nick says he has more than one word on this.
The answer is no. And there are some very succinct reasons for that, because in Office 365 there is a compliance model. And something that I point out to my customers quite often is that journaling only catches in transit mail. And if you look at a lot of the collusion cases that we've had over the last few years, particularly in terms of insider trading, a lot of them have used non-transport mechanisms. So that includes things like shared calendars, people logging into mailboxes, using the drafts folder, then deleting things. And so you find that the journal method of I don't even want to call it enforcing compliance, because it's part of a compliance mechanism. It's not the compliance mechanism. So if you look at what we're able to do in terms of legal hold and in terms of how we do message immutability, there's a much larger story there than just journaling. And if you look at why don't we do journal as a target in Office 365, if you take let's just say you've got a 20,000 user organization and you create a mailbox and you journal towards that mailbox. And you're aware that the storage model that we have in Office 365 is JBOD or cheap disk, and you now have 20,000 users worth of mail heading towards a database in a single spindle. And just from a supportability point of view, that's just a bad idea, besides the fact that journaling alone isn't a complete compliance mechanism.
And adding on to that, you may want to consider litigation hold. If you're in Office 365, put them on lit hold. You've got every email they had. You can do e-discovery against it, which is probably what you were intending to do for journaling in the first place.
Okay.
And it's, while they say it's unlimited, it's not quite. It's like 100 gigs.
Well, the archive the archive is going to be now unlimited.
Well,
We've had much larger archive mailboxes.
No, I think. Okay, anyway.
The limit this week, it was announced that the limit for the archive mailbox
Sure, but it's been a soft limit, and customers have been able to raise that with a support call. And
no support calls anymore. That's the point.
no, yeah, sure. So we've previously had customers with 400 gig plus archives. And just to bolt onto that, you know that you can still journal inside Office 365, but pointed to an outside SMTP target.
Right, yeah. So if a customer is really concerned about that, your recommendation is just put everybody on legal hold and push stuff to the archive?
Yeah, it's a different mechanism because it's storage over transport. And what I would do there is I would ask them what is their compliance model based on, and backtrack it back to the original requirement, which is what you'd want to do as a consultant, and then prove if the compliance mechanism in Office 365 does or doesn't fulfill the requirement before we journal back to external, just because it's the easy thing to do.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we have the question here.
Hi, so I'm coming from a very small environment. I've got just a single server. I'm in hybrid now. I've got just my own box up there to see how it works out. My two questions are...
How's it going for you?
It's fine so far. I haven't run into everything. You know, the problem is I'm kind of by myself, so I have to try and learn.
It's kind of hard to share when you're by yourself and stuff like that, isn't it?
Well, you know, figure out what's going on, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. I'm not trying to make fun of you, really.
So what do I need to do with my Exchange server once everything has been migrated off of it?
So is the question, how do you remove, delete, erase the hybrid relationship? Is that it?
I'm not sure, but maybe. What I know is that I need to keep the Exchange server around, even if all the boxes have been evacuated from it because of dirt. I have
recipient
dirt,
management.
I don't have ADFS and...
Yeah. Okay, well, the gentleman sitting behind you is a rather senior member of the Exchange development team who has definite views and opinions and news on this subject either. But let's ask the question to the panel.
Yeah?
To see whether or not they disagree. What would you do in this situation, Mr. Van Hybert?
There are a few options. You could keep it. Because you can use the management tools to do the management of the recipients on premises. As Nick just said to me, you can just uninstall it and use third-party tools that can do that for you, with the caveat that you're not officially supported, but we all know they just work beautifully. So, you know, there's different ways that you can go about. I think during the session yesterday, Tim said, well, now that Exchange is supported in Azure, you could potentially even ship it off to Azure and keep it there, although I do not agree that would make a lot of sense from a cost perspective. But yeah, I mean, there's options. Regardless of what you want to do, keep it, uninstall it, you go third-party tool route. But apparently, talk to Microsoft in the fall and you might get a different story.
Real quick, second one is, what is the quickest way to cut off access to a box that is being synced with a phone? Say when an employee is terminated.
Okay, so the good old employee terminated. Right. Thank you. That's a good question. That's one that a lot of people actually have to deal with today, and it's you know, with the number of devices that are out there. So it's easy. It's actually much easier in on-prem because you just move the mailbox, and that breaks all of the. Well, after you disable AD and all the rest of it, but if you just move the mailbox, it breaks all the connections and forces the client to reconnect, but you can't move the mailbox in the cloud. So what do you do?
So are you particularly interested in Exchange ActiveSync or all access?
Is it just mobile phones that they're worried about?
Yeah, there are just multiple ways now to connect to your box on your phone, whereas there used to only be ActiveSync. And in the past, I would do IIS reset, which is what I knew, reset the token session, and that would terminate it. But now, you know, there's Outlook, the mobile app, and there's ActiveSync and all that, which I heard is different. You know, you disable the account, it doesn't turn off access.
Just to clarify, because you said restarting IIS, we are talking about Exchange Online here now, because that is not an option. Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, yeah, that's what you used to. Okay, fine. Just to make sure that we're on the same page. So, is there an easy answer to that?
Disable OWA on the user, disable EAS.
Yeah, so you're going to disable all the protocols.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
You're going to send a remote
Disable,
wipe
right.
command down to ActiveSync, which will work. By the way, the Outlook for iOS and Outlook for Android, they do use ActiveSync, but they have an intermediate processing step where the data is sucked from Exchange by ActiveSync. It goes to a database that they maintain, and they do some filtering, intelligent filtering there to provide the focused inbox that's the major feature of that particular client. But they do support remote wipe. So you've got a remote wipe going down.
So you could do that. That's
You want to take away the license immediately and disable the Office 365 account.
right.
All of which can be scripted. This can all be scripted in one little script and bang.
Remote wipe is for a company-owned device or a, you know.
Well, that's the point. You could.
Hey, if
you
they're a
could be-
terminated employee, what do you care?
Well, I don't.
Are they going to complain to your HR department about that you've just wiped their device? Good luck on
Who
that.
knows what people will do?
Huh?
Who knows what they'll do, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
have you?
maybe.
Do you get drive-by shootings and stuff like that from terminated
Well, I'm
employees?
from Los Angeles, so possibly.
Okay, maybe you don't want to do that. Any other bright ideas that you want to do? No, any other? We're happy enough with that. Are you happy with what you got? Okay, so basically, just to restate, because there was a
Brian's got an answer to that.
Brian's got an answer to that, maybe.
Oh, Brian Reed, come on down, come on.
Run.
He's
By the
just
way,
searched for
I've
the
got to
answer.
say, there you go. By the way, this is Brian Reed, yet another master. So there's more masters around here than anywhere else on the face of the planet
Absolutely.
at the moment. Huh?
Okay, so coming very soon, there is a free MDM solution built into Office 365, okay, which will give you selective wipe, and that will avoid the drive-by shootings. It goes into...
Do you want to stay up here?
No.
No.
I didn't put my coffee down, so I'm
Okay.
staying up here. It goes into first run in the next couple of weeks, so it'll be available a few weeks, months after that. And in brief, it is a MDM solution for Windows Phone, Android, and iOS devices, so no PC management. Okay. It's based on Intune, but it allows you to do conditional access, so you can say, this group, here's the conditions. So if the person's a member of the group, etc. You can then remove the conditional access, selectively wipe the device, and it takes effect in a few seconds.
There's only one thing wrong with this. What's the one thing?
Wrong with it?
Yeah.
Well, I can think
Well,
of lots of
one
things.
little glitch that could get you. What's the one little glitch?
I can think of lots. What are you thinking of?
What I'm thinking of is the fact that while Microsoft has had tremendous success licensing ActiveSync to vendors, they have no control about how the vendor actually implements ActiveSync on it. So you can send the remote wipe
No, they fixed
command
that.
down.
They fixed that.
No.
The conditional access piece for ActiveSync is done on Exchange Server, and Exchange Server will stop sending email to the device.
Oh, yeah, but there's all the data that's on that device.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. All right, moving quickly.
But as the majority
yeah.
of people have iOS devices, the iOS device is compliant with this and will wipe the data because...
Yeah, iOS is good.
Yeah,
iOS is good. Android, not so good.
The conditional access piece, the MDM piece, will insist that it creates the ActiveSync profile for you, not the ActiveSync profile that the user themselves made. And then, when you wipe the device, it will wipe the ActiveSync configuration.
That's assuming that the wipe command gets the device.
Yeah, but you can report on that and see. So, yeah.
I'm just pointing out that anyway, let's, this is when techies argue, it's a horrible, horrible situation. Sir.
I also have two questions. My company is just considering moving to Exchange Online right now.
Right.
And I heard the journaling comment. Are there any other features that are not available or degraded in Exchange Online versus on-prem?
Any other features degraded in Exchange Online?
Which?
Anything else?
Okay, which version of Exchange are you on?
Oh, that's good.
2010.
And you're asking which things have been degraded?
Well, it's like, the journaling comment where he said, you could do a third party or, are there any other features?
Well, to be fair, let's put this in context. To be fair, okay? most people who use journaling use it to transmit stuff to a remote mailbox, and that remote mailbox is then under the control of some sort of ingestion software that takes it and puts it into a specialized archive. If you just set up a mailbox, an on-prem mailbox or whatever, and you direct all the journaling to it, very quickly that's going to be a very busy and very big mailbox. So that's a bad idea. So I don't think you can really argue that it's a degradation in the cloud. It's just different, and it represents the kind of environment that you're running in the cloud. So I don't think it's a take back. But I think it's a fair question, though, that is there anything that comes to the top of your mind that says, well, you can do this in Exchange 2010, but you're not going to be able to do it in terms of, say, user functionality in Exchange Online. I'm drawing a blank myself, but I'm hoping that Michael's put his microphone up, so he must have something.
Well, I might have something. Are you planning to go hybrid?
Potentially.
So there are a few drawbacks there with regards to recipient management, because right now, if you have a hybrid deployment, you have DirSync enabled, which means that the on-premises environment is a source of authority for all changes that you're going to make to Exchange Online recipients, which means that address management and all that is done on premises. But particularly, one thing that comes to mind is cross-premises mailbox access, or permissions, if you will, and the group self-service.
You're talking delegate access and stuff.
Delegate access, yes. Yeah. And group self-service management being probably the most visible one, provided that you are using it on premises. Because if you move a mailbox to Office 365 and that used to be the manager of a distribution group on premises, you can no longer use the tools in the control panel to manage that group, because the mailbox doesn't have access to the on-premises, or doesn't have the permissions to the on-premises object. There are some workarounds there, but they're less pretty, I'd say.
Well,
so that would be.
Sorry, isn't the basic workaround to always transfer objects that are linked by permissions together?
Yes, but
isn't that simple?
No, not always.
Not always.
In a complicated hierarchy.
Yeah. Oh, we can always build things, but generally speaking, in 90% of the situations, that's what you're going to do, right?
But in this case, the distribution group is still synchronized from on-premises. So even if you move the mailbox, the problem will be still there. The only way to solve this problem is to recreate the distribution group as a cloud-only distribution group, which then takes away the ability to automatically sync it. So you now have to manage it manually.
You're managing two different systems. It's not.
So let me just qualify your question. Are you saying what are we losing from a feature point of view in the platform, or what challenges do we have around recipient management?
More the first one, but the second one sounds good too.
You know that so I have customers that still need to journal, and so they journal on-prem, they go into hybrid mode, and then they journal in both locations, but they still point things to either the original cloud-based vendor or the original on-premises vendor. So journaling is not gone. My stance is that there are journaling isn't a fully compliant mechanism, and that you need more, because there are ways to subvert journaling and very public cases around how to subvert journaling that's been in the press.
Which you talked about earlier on.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So we don't need to go down that. You have a second question, though.
Yeah, and it's kind of been answered, I guess, a little bit, but I guess top 1 to 2 to 3 issues that you see with organizations that have moved into a hybrid or fully Exchange Online
that's
environment.
a good one. Top 2 or 3 issues with hybrid organizations. He's still there.
I'm just thinking.
Well, we'll ask each of you for your particular top issue. So what's your one?
So top issues that I see with customers are connectivity issues, and they're all related to the client, almost always. So I'll go further and tell you my number one recommendation to customers when they are migrating to the cloud to ensure a successful project is get your clients updated. Windows as well. But Office, get them on the latest and greatest. I even have some customers who, with E3 licenses, E4 licenses, that gives them the ability to go to Office 365 Pro Plus Click to Run, which installs side by side with their existing version of Office. And they'll start deploying that while we're still doing design and planning. We get that out ahead of time. They have an awesome experience.
Okay, so Jeff's number one thing, get your clients updated to make sure that the client experience is maintained across the hybrid environment. Michael, you're number one.
I probably cannot use that anymore.
No, you can't use that. You've got to be intelligent to come up with the second one.
Now, who says I'm intelligent? Connectivity probably is a big one too, but given that he's already half mentioned it, I'm going to go with cross-premises delegation being... Sorry.
Yeah, but that's why you're at the end of the line. You've got another 20 seconds to come up with one. Let Michael finish his one.
Cross-premises delegation for a variety of reasons, because if you're moving mailboxes and you want to retain that access, then you have to move them together, which if you start planning out the moves of those mailboxes, you sometimes start with a batch of 5, and then you start relating which ones have access to each other, and it fans out to become a batch of 50, 100, 150 mailboxes, stuff like that.
Okay. So
I'll do infrastructure. I find that my customers get bitten because they've got networks that are optimized for browsing as opposed to networks that are optimized for a SaaS application. And so we find that they have no idea how their ISPs peer with Microsoft. The GeoDNS is a mess. So if your DNS forwarders are forwarding everything to 8.8.8.8, then from a location point of view, you pop up in the Pacific Northwest, no matter where you are in the world. And so Outlook will connect you to the closest endpoint that has been given and then backhaul you. And so that could be a bit of a mess. So mine would be peering and DNS.
Okay, so with the top 3 we got, from Jeff, we got get your clients updated. Michael said, make sure that you move mailboxes that are connected together. And Nick is saying, have a look at your network and make sure it's optimized to deal with the cloud rather than the internal kind of little bit of web browsing kind of stuff that you have. Okay, you've already had one, so we'll give other people a go. You don't have a mic. We'll get you a mic. Or unless somebody else already has a mic. We have somebody else with a mic already?
Okay.
You waiting?
If you got a mic, go for it.
Yeah, go for it, Jeff.
My question is, with ADFS and single sign-on, and same sign-on, how do you discuss that with clients, knowing the problems with that ADFS has in true single sign-on with a heterogeneous client deployment? So if you have a whole lot of different client types out there, different browsers, the work involved in getting single sign-on is actually pretty extensive. How do you discuss that with your clients compared to using same sign-on?
Michael, that must be up your alley there. How do you justify the cost and the complexity? I mean, we were looking at an article that was published earlier on today that I showed you, where a firm of consultants alleged that hybrid wasn't worth it because it was so costly and complex, and they particularly drew out ADFS and said, you don't want to do this. What's your view on that?
So I do not agree. That hybrid is more complex than some of the other migration options, but sometimes you just go hybrid. But particularly around ADFS, you do not need ADFS, right? When I go into a customer site and talk about authentication, first talk about whether or not they actually need it. Sometimes people think they need a solution, and they might be better off using password hash synchronization just from a simplicity point of view. But if we do get into the conversation about, yes, we need single sign-on for whatever reason, maybe two-factor authentication integration with ADFS, then it comes down to making them understand what the behavior is, because regardless of how you look at it, the behavior is what it is, right? So know before you go, manage expectations, make sure that everyone is on board with it, so not only the customer, but it is always good to have a voice within the user community, because the IT department might think, oh yeah, that's fine if they do it like that. Then within the company, user communities are like, no, we're not going to do it like this. So there's really interesting conversations to be had about functionality there. This being said, shortly when modern authentication for instance, Outlook clients is available, that behavior will change and it will get a lot better. So, yeah.
I just want to add on some things that we do to ensure successful SSO experience is make sure that your user UPNs match their email addresses. Okay,
Yep.
that may mean adding a secondary UPN if you got a .local domain. Make those match and then have your users sign into Windows with their UPN, not domain WAC user. When they reach out to the ADFS server, depending on where they are on the network, either on or off the network, even the remote users, it's actually more important for them to sign in that way, because when they are redirected to the ADFS server, it passes those credentials, and if it's a domain WAC, they're going to get offed, so their experience is suboptimal. So make sure those users are signing into Windows with their email address, and things go a lot smoother.
Okay. Happy enough with that? Happy with the answer? Good one?
Thank you very much.
Big one there about the UPNs. Let's get everybody to start using the UPNs because that makes life a lot easier. Sorry, we've got a question over here and then down here.
So I have a very large environment, about like 90,000 mailboxes.
Okay.
We are considering going to Exchange Online.
Okay.
But I know some of the issues with it, and one of the biggest ones is the fact that about 1/3 of the users are on Citrix daily, and Citrix is their only environment. So I know the recommended method is to use the cached mode so that those users don't feel like tiny glitches on the network.
Yep.
But there's no way we can give them cache mode, otherwise their profiles are going to blow up. So is there an easy way out of this dilemma, or?
Yes.
Okay. Jeff has been aching to answer this question.
Okay. So first of all, Exchange 2013 has the slider that determines how big the OST can be.
Outlook 2013.
Or Outlook, I'm sorry, Outlook 2013.
And in fact, it gets even more granular in 2016.
Thank you, Tony. So, yeah, you can go down to, I want to say a week.
Yeah,
in 2013. You can go down to 3 days in Outlook 2016. If you, I would prefer that you do that, because a day's worth of email is probably less than anything they downloaded and put on their desktop.
Not really. They have.
Okay.
Some of them are very active users. They receive thousands of emails per day.
Okay.
You kind of wonder then why they're using Outlook. Maybe OWA is a better thing for them to use.
I don't go.
Well,
well, it's an option.
So here's the thing. OWA has got more functionality in it than Outlook has. In some respects.
In some respects.
Yes, but we block attachments in our OWA as a compliance requirement.
Okay.
So you may be able to do a different policy for those Citrix users so it's not blocked, but in any event, you can run in online mode. Office 365 is not designed for that, but it's not going. You're not going to be blocked.
The experience is not going to be pretty, though, right?
Well, isn't it all surely going to be what Nick said? If your network is designed to handle that kind of load going out to Office 365, they should be okay. If you've got a network that's traditionally inward focused, looking to your own servers, and you then switch it across to go to Office 365, you're going to be sucking dirty canal water.
And also MAPI over HTTP is going to be, they're short-lived connections. They have a better experience, and that's what you're going to be using in 365.
So to echo a little bit what was said, if you really cannot go in cached mode, which is doable even in a VDI deployment, but it has its impact on the environment, I get that, then if you want to go in online mode, then definitely make sure that you have Outlook 2013. because then you are sure that you're using MAPI HTTP to Office 365. That is the first requirement. I wouldn't do it with RPC HTTP for a lot of reasons. Second of all, make sure that your connectivity to the internet is a high bandwidth, low latency, and especially low latency is a key word there, connection. I do not believe that bandwidth is an issue in Office 365. Usually it's on the customer end. Regardless of that, even if you go in online mode with a high bandwidth, low latency connection, there are some actions that will feel slow to the end user, and that is just because of the way that Outlook handles things. If you're in online mode and you get an email with a 25 meg attachment, well, guess what? The attachment will have to be downloaded, and what Outlook does is, if it's a foreground operation, then it just says, hey, not responding until the action is done. So, as you said earlier, the end user experience might not always be on par with what you would expect with a true cached mode, but if those are the limitations that you have to work with, then fortunately that's what you have to go with. But there are some things that you can do to make it better. And again, high bandwidth.
I think one of the things I would do pretty well immediately would be to sign up for a 30-day test domain and go and run some tests yourselves to find out you can get the Outlook 2016 preview now. You've got Outlook 2013 Service Pack 1. You can have a look at OWA, you can play around with it, and at the end of the 30 days, the test domain goes away, and you'll have a lot more knowledge and experience.
Another tip I can give you that goes in with what both Michael and Nick were talking about. For checking out your environment, there's a website, a free tool called letmecheck.it. It's like let me check it, okay? And it'll test your MTU from your Citrix client and check the MTU to Outlook.com, and it should be 1500. If it's not, it tells you which packets are getting fragmented. That would be on you, right? That's your internal network. You've got some gear that is not configured with an optimal MTU, and that will give you a really lousy experience if you're not getting 1500 MTU.
And another thing I'll throw into the mix, express route for Office 365. Yeah. A much, basically a dedicated network pipe to the Microsoft data center to carry all the traffic. So there's lots of different ways of dealing with this situation, even if you want to stay with that particular solution. Okay?
I have a second question, Tom.
Everybody's got a second question.
Previous topic. So the shared mailboxes, right? We have a ton of them, almost like 40% of the mailbox count is actually shared mailboxes. The problem is some of them are well documented, so you know who has access and who has delegations and stuff like that, but some of them are not. Is there a tool out there that can help me make this discovery and figure out which mailboxes should be bundled together for the migration?
Yes, there are tools available. I work for a vendor that makes such a tool, but you could use PowerShell as well to gather the statistics, although that will take you a lot of time. If you have 45,000 shared mailboxes, it's a lot of work to go through and map those permissions. But yes, there are reporting solutions out there that can help you draw those conclusions.
Any names?
Makes them.
Oh, okay, gratuitous advertisement. Moving quickly along.
Yes.
I said Paul Cunningham, ExchangeServerPro.com, has got some useful scripts on his site that would help you. Okay.
For that matter, I did write a script a long time ago. It's on my blog.
Okay.
Van Hybrid.
VanHybrid.com. Oh, is that what did I get that right? Okay, good. And the next one was, who's got the mic? You have the mic. You have the mic? Oh, you have a question. But somebody has got the mic? Okay, he's next, and then you're next.
So
then over there, who's it? Okay.
I have a hybrid configuration. We have ADFS. We've migrated almost 10,000 mailboxes into Exchange Online, and this is my second migration. The issue that we've had is the public folders, specifically mail-enabled. There's the batch scripting that's available from Microsoft. The issue that we've had is because you're talking about 10 years and 250 gigs of data, if there's spacing in there, that has to be removed. You have to script to remove the spacing. And also, if you have repeat folder names. So example, think of you're in 3 separate geographical locations, Asia, North America, Europe. Each of those locations can use words such as HR, sales, finance repeatedly. And if they're mail-enabled and you're trying to use batch migration, it's going to fail because it's going to say, oh, HR, HR, HR. I've got it all over the place. So you have to recreate all the aliases for all these mail-enabled public folders. And I've been working with Premier on trying to get this done. But now we're at the point where we're having to send someone on site to try and script and figure out how we're going to complete this scripted migration. Any suggestions?
My suggestion is we get Siggy.
Sorry, what was that suggestion?
Get Siggy in here.
Oh, get Siggy in here.
Yeah.
For public folders.
Yeah, he's. Oh, there he is. Hey, Siggy, come on down. He's.
Oh yes, another MVP.
Exchange MVP. And,
oh yeah, Mr. Public Folder.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. You don't want that name going on top of yourself.
There you
go. You can be like Van Hybrid. He changed his name to reflect it. You could be Siggy Public Folders.
That just rolls.
Thanks, Tony. Can you please repeat the question, because I just was focusing on something else, to be honest, and I heard my name. So I guess it's about public folders. So.
Okay, so we have a large amount of public folders. About
so
250.
quantify how many, because large. And when Siggy starts talking about large, he talks of millions.
In size of data, it's 250 gig.
250. Okay. Okay. How many public folders?
And we're talking about 10 years.
Okay.
And a large amount is not a large amount, but 40% is mail enabled.
Okay.
Okay.
3 separate regions: Asia, North America, Europe, and they've reused folder names such as HR, sales, finance repeatedly.
Okay.
So when we try to use batch scripting from Microsoft, one, we have to rescript everything to get rid of spaces first, replace it with underscore. The second piece was when we were going through the batch scripting, it said, oh, I've got HR. Many times you need to rename all your aliases for those folders before I can mail enable them in the cloud. So we're stuck.
Well, you're certainly in a position where you're going to be paying for the sins of the past.
Correct.
Absolutely, and a total lack of imagination when it came to public folder naming.
That's correct.
But let's hope that Siggy has something better to say. Yes, that's a good one.
Well, so my question first is, this is on 2010, I guess, yeah, correct?
From 2010 on-prem.
And if I get the problem correctly, it's about that you have a massive amount of mail-enabled public folders
let me
with
see
similar names.
if I can get it right, okay.
Yeah.
So basically, they've been using the Microsoft tools to go and get all the CSV files, preparing for the migration, and they're looking through it and saying, wow, we got all these duplications in here, okay? And a lot of the duplications are because you've got different departments, different regions or whatever, who have got HR and whatever. And so I guess the question is there a tool out there that is going to be able to clean up the public folder hierarchy, the public folder, and prepare them?
Or sequentially rename the aliases so that we can actually complete the batch.
Okay. Have you heard of PowerShell?
Oh, we're using PowerShell.
Yeah, maybe PowerShell.
I mean, I'm engaged with Exchange Premier for this. We've been doing
they're good at PowerShell.
For about a minute.
You could ask them to write a script.
Well, we've been doing that. I mean, we're using your scripts.
Yeah.
The issue is that we're just at a stalemate, and now they want to come on-prem and invest.
So why don't they found out all of these duplicate aliases, right? And those duplicate aliases are clearly identified, right? So you could create a CSV file containing all those duplicate aliases, and you could use that as the input to a PowerShell script, which would loop down through the CSV file, find each one of these folders that have a problem, and go and rename them and rename the alias.
That was the try.
Well,
and you're asking if somebody else has already done it. Okay, has somebody else done it?
I undertook a public folder cleanup project in a size which is, we got rid of 300,000 public folders, by the way, during a period of 2 years, but it's a very painful process and it's a lot of discussion with your users. well, we got the public folder structure I'm talking about is 1.3 million, and we got down just underneath a million using that. So if you're thinking of migrating to your public folders, I would highly recommend not only doing a cleanup, like the automatic process that he was saying, but also talk about maybe to identify the old public folders and create a new structure which is more meaningful for the future, because I know public folder structures are there forever. Mine, for example, was implemented 1997, I think. Yeah, so that's around almost 20 years.
So it sounds like, I don't want to, we got lots of questions to get through. I don't think we're going to get through to this one. Why can't I recommend that
you come
get together?
Correct.
Right?
Just come and we discuss this
Mr.
after
Public
the session.
Folders will be happy to talk to you later on. Is that fair? Thank you. Let's go on, because I know we've still got a couple. Yeah. So,
I wanted to come back to the UPN topic.
Okay.
A little bit. So
UPNs.
my organization migrated last fall. We came off of Lotus Notes, and a decision was made for compatibility with other applications, leave the UPNs within the .intra format, and it's definitely giving us that suboptimal user experience that you described when it came up a couple of questions ago. So I guess I was not aware of a solution to add a second UPN, which you referred to. So I guess my first question was, if there's resources you can point to for that, or basically what I'd like is something that I can give to my AD guys that says, look how easy and perfect and painless and quick this will be. Let's go do it. Or if you can describe.
Adding a secondary UPN is not supported.
Wait,
you're talking
wait,
about multi-view?
Let's have the discussion in live. Go on.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
I'm just a shy retiring guy, but I've got all the knowledge, so come on, share it. You're on. You're live.
Well, no, it's not. Okay.
Oh.
So if you are using a .local as your primary UPN, because you've been using that for years on premise, we once upon a time would support adding a secondary UPN that had a public namespace, but we've now published guidance saying that it's not supported in a hybrid configuration.
Okay, maybe there's a miscommunication then. I'm not talking about adding a secondary UPN. I'm talking about changing the existing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. So is that what you
Yeah,
understood
we
me
need
to say?
to change it. I mean, do you see a lot of organizations sticking it out with the local and fighting through that suboptimal experience? Please tell me I'm the only one so I can go back and tell my guys.
No, I see this all the time. I mean, we see it, every time. So that's why I bring it up very early in the project. Typically you were asking, where do we find guidance on this? So you can find it on TechNet. I can't tell you exactly where, but I'll tell you it's super easy. You go into AD Domains and Trusts, properties of the domain. There's a box there for UPNs. You add the secondary UPN, and you use AD Modify to go in and change everybody.
So just to add a little bit of a color to that statement, it is easy to make the change, really easy, but of course, there are some applications that might have hard-coded UPNs on premises. So proper due diligence is required before you go in and make a massive change into all of your users. This being said, I'm in a project right now for a large university that has 180,000 accounts, and they're going to change the UPN. They did their due diligence, and they're like, yep, sure, do it. So it is perfectly doable, and it is by far the best solution. I mean, don't go try doing Alt ID. It's not supported in hybrid, first of all. And then, you could fiddle around with synchronization and make sure that you map different attributes to it. Don't do that. Keep it simple.
Okay, so don't do your UPN changes over a weekend, basically,
There you go.
Okay, without planning anyway. Sir, you've been waiting an awful long time, so.
Sure. With a customer that has use CSV to batch import all their users into a tenant. Mail flow's going. They decide to change their source of authority to on-premise for a SSO solution, whether it be with password or ADFS. How do you do that when the soft match doesn't work? Or how do you fix it or get it to work when soft match doesn't work?
You can do a manual hard match.
How is that?
It's a little bit iffy, but it's fine. So it's a little bit of extra work. So what you're doing is you're basically taking the GUID of both objects and you're mainly associating them with each other. But it's perfectly scriptable. It's you would do it on an exception basis. I would imagine you're not going to do it on 10,000 objects. Yeah. So if soft match doesn't work, then you can do a manual hard match.
Is there a script available somewhere out there that you guys know that you can refer?
I believe there is, and I even believe it's on the TechNet script gallery that helps you do that. Of course, I don't know the URL out of my head, but
there is. Yes.
But there is.
So
there
a
is
simple search of the TechNet script
Absolutely.
gallery will give you one. Okay, we got about 8 minutes left, so we'll probably get in another 3 questions. Here's the first one.
Sorry, I'm back. I had.
It's all right. You were okay the last time.
Okay. The SPC controllers that we're talking about for unified messaging, when we migrated our mailboxes onto to the cloud, the unified messaging piece broke for the users who are online. And so we realized that we need to get an SPC controller to fix that. We're in the process of procuring that. So once we get that in place, will the end users have a seamless experience as if they had when they had their mailbox on-prem?
So they were on-prem, you're migrating them to the cloud, you need an SPC? Is that what you said you bought?
An SPC controller to route their...
Right, okay. So will it be seamless?
The short answer is it can be.
Yeah.
Long answer is it depends. There's a lot of things that come into play.
Yeah. The most common thing that we see is to use a, what do you call it, the main number that they dial in to get their voicemail, or do they dial their own number?
They dial their own number.
Okay, then that's perfect. If they were using a number, I forget what it's called, subscriber access. If they were using a subscriber access number to get to it, you can do that in the cloud, but it's going to be a different number than it was on-prem. So if they have to learn a new number anyway, make it their own number.
Okay.
Right? Tell them to use their own number, and then that's easier.
Okay. My second question was about delegation. As the product evolves over time, will there be a time when on-prem users and the cloud users can access each other's mailboxes?
You're talking crazy, man. Dogs and cats living in harmony? No, we're not on the project team, so we can't.
Yeah, no comment, not
speak to
Microsoft.
that.
Sorry, no product features described here. So we have another question up here, and then we're going to come down here. Okay, your question, sir.
Great. Our organization, we have two forests. We have a forest that we use for external and a forest that we use for internal. All of our Exchange users are on the internal forest, of course. But our email addresses are the UPN of the external forest. So we have a forest trust. So the issue is right now with that forest trust, we can't use the UPN that matches our email addresses. So we can't use we can't change our UPN without breaking that trust. And I'm not certain we're going to be able to break that trust in time for the project that we're migrating to the cloud. So any comments you can say on that? And then what's the next best solution if we're not able to use that UPN?
It'll still work, it just won't be optimal. They will be prompted for auth a little more often than...
Do you want to quantify that? Do you want to give some, saying something is suboptimal? Do you feel that it's so bad that the end user...
But if you're looking for most of our customers are looking for seamless experience, right? They know what their environment's like now, and actually they should be living that dream right now, right? What's it like for them getting into their mail? Is it working okay?
Well, we're not migrating yet.
Right. No, when you're on-prem right now, are they getting
So on-premise, they're
prompted
logging in with the NetBIOS domain name / SAM account name.
Okay,
So-
but are they getting prompted for auth when they go into Outlook every time?
They are not, no. And we'd like to keep the transition as painless as possible for them. So is there a scenario where we can get them to the cloud without being prompted, with maybe even with the next version of the client that does the SAML?
So modern auth might help with that, I would expect.
This seems
I'm looking for a nod from Tim.
This seems like
he's shaking his head no.
a borderline case. As far as I understood, you have two forests. One forest has an email address, companyaa.com, and the other forest has as a forest name, companyaa.com, right? Kind of seems like a borderline case. I believe there are solutions for that, which may or may not involve some trickery. And trickery is always bad, in my opinion, but you will get, this is a scenario that you can get to work, but it would take us too far. So, if you want to know more, let's have a talk later with Tim as well, and
okay.
help.
Thanks.
So you got a reference there. Okay, how are we doing? We might get in two more, so you're...
All right, this might be slightly off topic, but I'm working towards my MCSE, and I'm wondering if you could recommend a good book, maybe a green one, to help me study for the 342 exam.
All right.
Oh,
awesome.
This is exactly what I need.
That was great.
Thank you so much.
That's his question.
This
awesome.
man has been looking at that book for 73 minutes, wondering how he was going to ask that question. That's fantastic. Can we have a real question?
Probably sign it for you as
real
well.
question. Who's
Of
going to
course you
ask the
could.
last real question?
Make it count.
Oh, here we go. Good. We got one. Hope it's a good one.
I do too. It might be dumb. So I have a number of customers that have active sites in a bound model, thinking about going Office 365 hybrid. Is it possible to deploy hybrid servers in both sites? And I'm sure if it is, there's an it depends on some of the decision factors in doing so.
Yes, you can, and it depends. Things always depend, but no, it's perfectly possible. As far as deploying hybrid, it's a statement that is very loaded. I mean, you're Exchange 2013 right now. There is no such thing as a hybrid server or deploying extra hybrid service. Just reuse what's already there. And as far as if you want to migrate from one data center, the migration endpoint that you use in the migration batch, for instance, will point to data center A. If you want to move mailboxes out of data center B, you just create a new migration endpoint that points to the client access service and data center B, and move them from there. Other than that, there's nothing else.
Okay, so we actually have time for one more. If anybody got the... All right, you have a dumber question. Are you giving us a guarantee on that?
So one of the features we need is we have some sister companies that are not on Exchange at all. They are on some other online services like Google. And but we're getting pressure from them to establish some sort of freebie VLOOKUP between these two organizations. And Google has a nice document that kind of describes how to do it if you are on premises, because they're depending on the organization relationship on one side and public folder freebie VLOOKUPs on the other side. Can you guys think of any scenarios that might make this work on Office 365? So Google on one side and Office 365 mailboxes on the other side.
I'm not aware of any coexistence.
SMTP.
What?
SMTP.
I don't know what you're saying. That's not
SMTP.
I know what
They're
SMTP.
4 characters. I mean, they're simple enough.
So we did a large. Ignore the man to the side here. I always do. So we just did a very large migration from Google to Office 365, and we used third-party tools completely, and it went fairly smooth. There was no coexistence during that time, and I mean it's like oil and water. They're completely different systems. There's nothing that you can use. If you're, there is no public folder free busy in the cloud. There's no public that went away with 2010. So I don't, without knowing anything more about that white paper or what that solution's about, I can't really comment. But
which is why I said SMTP. You can send an email between them. That's about it. Okay. Anyway, with 9 seconds left, I'm going to declare this session over. I'm going to thank these guys for answering all those questions. And thank you all for coming and lasting right through to the end of Ignite. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next year.
And please fill out your evals.
Oh, yes, please fill out.